And welcome back to GavGoesIn. Guys, Man United doing their usual bullshit. The usual bullshit of, you know, um, this club makes me laugh, man. It's like we all know that they're interested in Bryan Mbuemo, and Brentford have blatantly let it be known, they're willing sellers. Obviously, you've got Mbuemo himself wants to come to United. And looking at Brentford, Brentford are looking at the fact that Matthias Cunha cost 62.5 mil. Big up to Reluctant Gamer. Big up, bro. They're looking at the fact that, Cunha cost 62.5 even though it was a release clause. And let's be honest, the season that Mbuemo just had, as we know, Brentford have every right to ask for 60 plus million. They have every right to go and do that. You're getting Mbuemo, who I believe is 24 years of age now, I believe. And to be honest with you, he's definitely one of the best attackers in the league playing for Brentford. And you can only imagine that if he does come to a Man United, what he's going to provide for United in the attacking part of the pitch. So you would have thought, United having the season that they've had, would have just got the deals done, got Cunha in, paid the installments to get that over the line. And then obviously interested in Mbuemo. Man United just do the usual bullshit of just trying to offer, I think the latest bid was 55 mil, which is 7.5 in add-ons. And again, the add-ons are not going to be achievable add-ons or add-ons that Brentford will find realistic. If United are serious, just offer 60 million, get the deal done and move on. But United always do their usual shit, just messing around. First bid was rejected, I think was about 40 odd mil. Then they upped it to 55 mil plus add-ons. Even if United was to do 58 mil, plus realistic add-ons of 5 mil. If United get into the top four, Brentford might get a couple of mil, and appearance based. If United would have come in with that kind of bid, I think Brentford probably would have accepted that. But Brentford have already said that they want 60 mil. And the fact that this club just keep messing around, is an absolute joke, man. Big up to the Melbourne sisters, first time in there. Guys, if it's your first time, subscribe to my channel, smash that like button, and check out all my other content as well. Yeah, big up Melbourne sisters. I'm guessing you guys are from Australia. So, yeah, guys, give me your questions as well. What do you think about the Bryan Mbuemo bid rejected? I mean, the third bid that United make, I would expect that to get accepted. But Man United are just wasting time, man. Brentford clearly wants 60 mil. They've seen how much Cunha's gone for, and 60 mil is obvious, man. So the fact that they're just messing around with 1 and 2 bids, if you really want Mbuemo, then just offer 60 million what they want, and just get the deal over the line, and then United can go into a new season, Mbuemo, Cunha, and then move on to other targets. Central midfield for me is a must. Carlos Baleba as well. Yeah, big up Melbourne sisters. Yeah, obviously the name Melbourne obviously is based in Australia, man. So it wasn't a hard one, but big up yourselves for coming on. As I said, make sure you subscribe and make sure you give me your questions and smash that like button. Guys, let me know what you think about Bryan Mbuemo. Do you think 60 million is too much for Man United to pay? Or do you think 60 million is probably a bargain in comparison to what other players are going for? Because personally, I think 60 million, is the right amount. If anything, United should really count themselves lucky that it's only 60 million in comparison to what's out there right now. And you look at Anthony Elanga for argument's sake. Elanga's had a bid of 45 million rejected by Nottingham Forest. So Newcastle bidded 45 mil. And I believe if Newcastle do come in with another bid, I think their next bid might be 55 mil, and whether that gets accepted or not, I'm not too sure. But to think that Elanga's going to cost, more than 50 mil, You know, to get Mbuemo, who's better, as I said, is an absolute steal. Um, so as I said, yeah, it's mad. So I'm in Northern Ireland right now. Okay, so you're in the UK then. Big up, big up, big up. Um, so yeah, as I said, man, United just need to just stop messing around. But I do believe, and I think what it is because United, I think what United are doing as well. I think United are trying to use the fact that they're one of the biggest clubs in the world by name, and they're thinking that they can just go to Brentford and bully them. Let's be honest. But these clubs have got money, so they don't really need to sell. And if they are going to sell, arguably their top players, it's going to be for money. So, and it's going to be for a lot of money and in what they think he's worth. So, as I said, United just need to just fix up and just offer the 60 mil that Brentford want and then keep it moving. And as I said, I believe the next bid that United make has to be 60 million plus add-ons. And if they do 60 million plus add-ons, Brentford will accept that. If Brentford don't accept that, and Brentford look at it and think, United are messing them around because they know what the fee is, then that's when I think possibly you might have to look elsewhere. And looking at Kudus, I believe, might be the way. But yeah, I mean, I blame United's negotiators because it's clearly obvious how much Brentford want. Brentford don't want 40 million plus add-ons. They don't want 50 mil plus add-ons. They want 60 mil. And even if you get to 58 and you got realistic add-ons, then fair enough. You know what I mean? That's what it should be. Big up to Will Nickel. Will Nickel says, how confident are you in Amrim for next season? Or does he all rely on getting players in? Good question. I mean, to be honest with you, I'm not really confident in Amrim himself because Amrim for me, regardless of what many people might say, Amrim for me doesn't deserve this next season. He doesn't, because before the Aston Villa game, he got 9 points in 2025. So that for me is unacceptable. Regardless if people are saying he hasn't got his own players, he needs more time. And you look at a lot of the other clubs in the league, if Amrim was at them clubs on that run, they would have sacked him sooner. So I think Amarim's lucky personally. And as I keep saying, he's got these first 5 games to navigate 3 victories for me. Arsenal, Fulham, Burnley, Man City and Chelsea. I would expect at least 3 wins from there. And I think that's doable. I think if he manages to get, draws against City, Chelsea and Arsenal and a win in either of them 3 games, I'd think, you know what? He's done a good job. But the Burnley game and even Fulham away, I'd expect nothing less than 3 points. And as I said, I think with Amarim, I don't want to hear he hasn't got his players in because, as I keep saying, not every manager gets their own players. You look at all the top clubs around the world, the only way they get their own set of players in is because they've earned the right. And for me, Amarim hasn't earned the right to get his own players in. And I believe a lot of the signings that United are making, I don't believe they're Amarim signings. I think they're club signings. You look at Cunha, he's definitely a club signing for me. Bryan Mbuemo, the same. And as I said, I think he's got these first 5 games. And if he doesn't get positive results out of these first 5 games, he's going to find himself in under a lot of pressure. And rightfully so. So to answer your question, Will, I'm not confident in Amrim. I'm not. I think the players are going to be the ones that get him over the line in the end. But it all comes down to these first 5 games. Because I think these first 5 games, if they're negative results, then I don't see him keeping his job. Jack says, what do you think about Ronaldo's new deal and how ridiculous it is? Yeah, I see something. I think it's, and I could be wrong, I see something about 492 mil over 2 years, and to be honest with you, I'm not really surprised, and he got a sign-on fee of 24 mil from what I read. And I think if you look at Ronaldo's, his status in the game, he's gonna make a large chunk of that money back for the club anyway. So them giving him that deal isn't as massive as what people, or ridiculous as what people might think it is, because all you have to look at is the marketability, the shirt sales that Ronaldo still does. Whether people like it or not, he's still adored by a lot of fans. So he's going to make that money back for the club anyway. And especially in Saudi, where they're going to idolize him in terms of a lot of fans. So he's going to make that money back. So them giving him that deal, they'll know full well that Ronaldo will make that money back. So I'm not really surprised that he's got that new deal. It is a lot of money. Let's be honest. 492 mil over 2 years. Like anyone would be mad to not accept that deal. And 24 million just for signing on. 24.5 million for just signing on. Yeah, he's laughing. He's laughing. But as I said, yeah, you can't blame Ronaldo, man. He's in a sense, the career that he's had, he's earned the right to be in talks with that kind of money, and if Saudi have the money, so they're gonna pay it, and that's as simple as that. Big up to Gunners fan as well. If you're Gunners fan, give me your questions about Arsenal. Let's get into it. Will Nichols says, yeah, fair. I do rate the football when it's played right, though it needs consistency, but more exciting than a lot of United past managers. So for me, since Amorim, the only manager that I've rated at United, and I'm not going to include Ralph Rangnick, because Ralph Rangnick wasn't meant to be the manager at United. He definitely should have gone upstairs. But for me, Louis van Gaal. Louis van Gaal has been the only manager since Sir Alex Ferguson that has kind of got United, firing, and a lot of fans, because they were so, desperate to see success straight after Ferguson because of what he'd done, didn't really give time to Van Gaal. And you can see the way that Van Gaal was trying to get his teams to play. Even if you look at the under-23s, the under-23s were playing the right way as well. And you got to look at the kind of players that Van Gaal had at the time. He had a young Martial. He had Wayne Rooney, who was nearing the end of his career. Van Persie the same. He had all of these elite players that were elite players that were coming to an end. And obviously, as we know, he was bringing through the likes of Tyler Blackett, Guillermo Varela, obviously a young Rashford as well. The likes of these Will Kings of this world, he was bringing through these players, and Cameron Borthwick-Jackson, another left back, and making them look respectable. And let's just have a look at where these players have gone now. So Van Gaal for me has been the best manager since Sir Alex. But again, the fan base that were, spoilt really, didn't really give him the time. Some people were saying the football was boring, which it wasn't. Again, you have to look at the players he had. And again, I would give anything, to have Van Gaal football now than what I'm currently seeing, or what I've seen over the past few years. So, as I said, man, yeah, Van Gaal for me has been the best manager. Again, we look at Solskjaer. Solskjaer should never have been the manager in the first place. But if I'm comparing Solskjaer to Ten Hag and Ruben Amorim, I never thought I'd say this, but I'd rather Solskjaer than both of them. At least Solskjaer knew he was shit, but just got the best players on the pitch and kept it moving. The likes of Ten Hag and Amorim have actually come here thinking they're better than the club, and regardless of what players they have. So yeah, but I'm gonna say Van Gaal definitely, and Mourinho again. Mourinho won 2 trophies. Obviously we know Mourinho, but the football under Mourinho and the blatant disregard for, getting the best out of young talent, alienating certain players as well, didn't sit right with me. So, yeah, Van Gaal for me by a long distance. So Jack says he's getting paid 365 euros a minute. Yeah, mad money, man. Mad money. But as I said, the career that Ronaldo's had, he's more or less earned the right really to be getting that kind of money from Saudi. Let's be honest, they're gonna pay him that money because, as you just said, he's marketable, and his name still holds weight. So yeah, definitely a massive contract, but he'll make the club will make that money back anyway, But big up. Gunners fan says, do you think Duran over Sesko? listen, John Duran, for me, if you didn't see my stream earlier today, Arsenal will be fools to not go for John Duran. You know, I'm hoping they don't, because obviously I would love John Duran at Man United. You know, get rid of Hoyland and bring in a John Duran. You know, Chelsea obviously were linked to him before. Why Chelsea haven't been interested again? We all know that Chelsea need another striker, but they might be looking at the likes of Liam Delap being what, 21 or 22, John Duran being around a similar age. They might look at it and think we want to get a more experienced striker. I mentioned Liverpool already. You know, Liverpool probably looking at a striker. You know, if they was to get a John Duran in, what a signing that would be for them. Because I think John Duran coming into a team that is already, you know, ready set up will be good business, you know. And yeah, again, Arsenal, yeah, why not? But the fact that Arsenal are going for Sesko, I mean, I can see why they're going for him, because they don't want to upset the high earners, the likes of Kai Havertz and Gabriel Jesus. And we know that Sesko's just going to come into the club and take 165, you know, or something like that. Whereas the Gyökeres, the Ossimans, you know, the big players that have done it are going to ask for big money. And Arsenal's wage bill, as we know, is all over the place. But Arsenal should definitely take Duran over Sesko, but I'm hoping they don't. So, yeah, we'll have to see. Gunners fan says, are you an Arsenal fan? I'm not. I'm a Man United fan. And I like Barcelona as well. But big up. Sportology says, do you think Tyler Diblin will be sold for an expensive price? I'm a massive fan of Tyler Dibbling. I think Tyler Dibbling, for me, is a future England international. You know, he's someone that is destined to play in the Premier League as well. I know Southampton have been relegated. Do I think he's going to cost 60, 70 mil? I don't. I think what Southampton are doing is that they know that they've got a potential star on their hands. So they're going to try and drive the price as high as possible. And yeah, they are going to ask for a lot of money. But I believe the links to Tottenham have been strong. Obviously, Man United, I don't know why Man United haven't firmed up their interest. Obviously, they're focusing on Mbuemo, which is obvious. But I think the likes of Tyler Dibbling, I think you're looking at 30 million plus add-ons, you know. There's no way he's going to go for 60, 70 million. No way. But I can see what Southampton are doing. They're trying to price him out because, again, they want to keep him because he's a very good player. And then if they lose him, then they're going to try and drive the price as high as possible. But the way that I look at it, if any club wants Tyler Diblin, just firm up their interest, put a bid in, and test Southampton's resolve. But I think definitely 30 million plus add-ons, 40 million at most plus add-ons, I think could do it. But yeah, for me, as I said, very good player, and I don't think he'll be that expensive from what the quotes. I mean, I see a quote saying he's going to cost 100 million, which again is a lie. He's never going to cost 100 million. I would go as low as saying he'll cost less than 50 mil. I'm confident of that, you know. But whether teams firm up their interest, we'll have to wait and see. But I've heard that Tottenham are the front runners for him. Sportology says, who are your three favourite managers after Sir Alex? I think I've more or less just answered it. So number one definitely is Van Gaal. And then the rest, because I'm not going to include Ralph Rangnick, because as I said, Rangnick for me was meant to go upstairs. So I'm going to put him to the side. And if I had to choose, because we're only talking about Mourinho, Solskjaer, Ten Hag, and now Amorim. For me, I never thought I'd say this because in the end, I was fed up of both Mourinho and Solskjaer. But after Van Gaal, we'll have to say Mourinho and Solskjaer because I think Ten Hag and Amorim have taken this club backwards for me. So, yeah, Van Gaal by a long way in front, and then pick and choose between, you probably say Mourinho for the trophies and then Solskjaer. And again, we're struggling because, as I say, Van Gaal for me is the only one that I rate in terms of managers after Sir Alex. But big up Sportology, man. Great question. Gunners fan says, Sesko was so bad, his stats and playing style doesn't justify his 85 million price tag. Yeah, listen, there's no way Sesko's worth 85 million. But then again, there's a lot of players that are going for prices that they're not worth, and this is why I don't think Arsenal are serious, because we all know that Arsenal need a top striker. And Gunners fan, yourself, you probably know this as well, that, Arsenal probably need a top striker to really compete with Man City and Liverpool. But for me, Arsenal are just not able to get the job done, in my opinion. And the fact that they're looking at Sesko just tells me all I need to know, really, because he's not going to cost 85 million. That's a certainty. But the fact they're even looking at Sesko, when they need a proven goal scorer, it just tells you that Arsenal are not serious, and there are strikers out there that, again, Osimhen, Gyökeres, that do get goals. And this is what Arsenal should be going for. But as I mentioned earlier, I feel that the reason they're going for Sesko is because, first and foremost, this manager loves Kai Havertz, and you'd think he's going to play Kai Havertz still as the number 9. And he's going to play Sesko probably in one of the wide areas, probably from the left. And for me, it's not going to take them anywhere than where they were already. So, yeah. Sportology says, in how many years do you think Man United will win Premier League? So if I'm looking at the signings that United have made already, Matthias Cunha going for Bryan Mbuemo, that's a very good start, because you look at Premier League proven, it's a very good start. So I look at Man United right now, and this 3-4-2-1 system that Amorim is playing, for me, isn't my favourite formation. So I just want to see United go back to a 4 at the back, whether it's a 4-3-3 with one player sitting, and then 2 probably advanced midfielders, or you go to the 4-2-3-1 with 2 players sitting, 1 slightly advanced, a number 10, and then you've got the inside forwards, or the creators from out wide, and a striker or a false 9. If United go to that, I think United are a lot closer than where people think, than people think, because you look at Cunha now. Cunha can play in the 4-3-3, the 4-2-3-1, Mbuemo the same, because I don't really like seeing Amad Diallo as a wing back. But in this system, with Mbuemo coming in, it's more than likely he's going to play there. But if you play a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-3-3, Amad can play right of a 3, or he can play in the 4-2-3-1 on the right, or as a number 10. So I think just based on the 4 at the back, United get the signings in of Cunha, Mbuemo. You go for a Carlos Baleba, as I said, in midfield. I think United, personally, I look at City and Liverpool as the 2 main teams right now. But if United just make the right signings, because I don't believe this manager is going to be there for the long term. I think this manager doesn't see out the season, personally. And I think going back to the 4-2-3-1 or the 4-3-3, and they get the right signings in, I'll go as far as saying United, for me, could win the title within the next 5 years. Within the next 5 years. But that depends on, the signings, getting rid of a lot of these players as well, and just playing a cohesive brand of football. And as I said, I don't think this manager's going to be here for the entirety of it. So, yeah, I would say 5 years, but a lot of it depends on certain things for me, But big up, man. Great question. Sportology says, do you think Harvey Elliott should be in a shortlist of other big clubs? So, yeah, I mentioned this the other day. So, Harvey Elliott's a very good player, but the problem that he has at Liverpool is that where he plays, he either plays on the right or plays in the 10, And both of those positions are occupied by arguably Liverpool's most valued player in Mo Salah. And then it's occupied by, obviously, their biggest signing in Florian Wirtz. So realistically, Harvey Elliott is not going to get regular game time. But I think Harvey Elliott, as a valuable member of the squad, has his place for Liverpool. Because there are cup games, there are league games, Champions League, that he'll be useful in. I think personally, at this stage of his career right now, he probably needs to go elsewhere and play regular football, because as long as he's at Liverpool, and not because he's not good enough, he isn't going to be getting regular game time. Because as I said, you've got Mo Salah and you've got Florian Wirtz, who play directly in his position, and they're 2 players who are regarded as 2 of the best players in the world in their positions. So the fact of the matter is, he's not going to play. If Liverpool was to loan him out and then, they bring him back when Salah's done, You know, that could be a possibility. But then again, you know, they might want to get a direct replacement for Salah, which Harvey Elliott isn't. You know, he offers different qualities to what Salah does. So for me, I think if you're looking at the top 6 clubs, can he start for the top 6 clubs? I look at Man City. You know, again, it's the same situation with Liverpool. You know, he doesn't confidently start for me because they've got a lot of quality players there. Newcastle, you know, I think he can get a start in Liverpool's team, in Newcastle's team, I would say, right now. Arsenal, again, I think it's pretty similar because you got Bukayo Saka who plays on the right, and then obviously Odegaard's the captain, and then you got Ethan Nwaneri that isn't getting game time there. So I think it might be a similar thing to Liverpool and City. And again, it's not because Harvey Elliott isn't good enough, it's just the competition for places. So I'm saying Newcastle, Aston Villa. I think he can start for Aston Villa as well, you know, on that right-hand side possibly. Yeah, there is clubs. Nottingham Forest, you know, he can start for them. Or rotation at times as well. So yeah, he can definitely start for teams in the top 6, in the top 8 for me. But at Liverpool, yeah, he's not going to get regular game time. But if he's happy to be part of the squad, you know, and getting games here, there, and everywhere, then fair enough. But for me, he's a very good player, definitely, and he's been one of the stars of the under-21s tournament. You know, the 2 goals he scored the other night against Holland, you know, 2 great finishes. You know, and yeah, he's a good player, man. Gunners fan says, I would have taken Cunha at Arsenal, Premier League proven and cheaper as compared to the Bundesliga strikers. Yeah, listen, again, the fact that United can finish as low as they did, you know, and no Champions League football, and still get Cunha and looking likely to get Mbuemo, you know, it just speaks volume for the club, really. I mean, how valuable the club is still. Because let's be honest with you, man, they're 2 players that could go and play for the top 6 easily. You know, and the fact that United have got both of them, again, it just shows the pull of United still. But yeah, Arsenal, to be honest with you, they were never going to sign Cunha because for some reason, this manager is hell-bent on Saka and Martinelli. He's invested his stocks in both of them, you know, and if Arsenal is serious, they should sign 2 players. They should sign players on either wing to challenge both of them and push them and even threaten to take their place. But the fact of the matter is, this manager's not going to do that. And as long as he doesn't do that, then Arsenal are never going to improve, in my opinion. So, yeah, but they would have been two great acquisitions, definitely. So, Gunners fan says, if I was Man United's manager, I would have taken Retegi, Baleba and Tapsoba. Do you know what, yeah? Big up Gunners fan, man, because I mentioned this again early in one of my streams a couple of days ago. I said, because I wasn't even really talking about Tapsoba, but the fact that Tapsoba might be available, you know, Carlos Baleba is a no-brainer for me. Again, if you check out my other content, I've spoken about Baleba before. He should be the main target for me in midfield. But Tapsoba, I think you can get him for cheap. And he would be an ideal signing for me for United, because he's someone that can play across the back 3 as well, you know. And I think in terms of his physicality, you know, his pace, he would fit right into this United team. But obviously, there's no reports that United are watching him. But Retegi as well, I think Retegi is good. You know, do I think he's a striker that United should be going for? I'm not too sure. I think he might possibly need like another season in Italy, I would say. Because for me, the fact that Højlund has done this bad, you know, you have to be skeptical about strikers coming out of Italy. You know, I know Joshua Zirkzee come from Bologna, obviously, but previously at Bayern Munich. But for me, Zirkzee has the quality, and you can see his quality. Obviously, Osimhen was at Napoli, but obviously he's proven in terms of goals. So Retegi's good, but I wouldn't want him at United. Baleba and Tapsoba for me, definitely Baleba, are no-brainers. Sportology says, if you were Amrim, who would you sign and sell? Listen, this is easy for me, and I've said it previously. So in terms of sales, you know, there's a whole list, you know, of sales United need to do. And again, this isn't going to be done all in one window. But United need to be moving on the likes of Rasmus Højlund, Garnacho, Rashford, Bruno Fernandes, Mason Mount, Luke Shaw, and probably Andre Onana. So that's 7 players there for me that need to go for different reasons, you know. And in terms of incomings, Baleba, Mbuemo, trying to think now who else there is. Douglas Luiz. I think Douglas would be a great player to get if it's a loan deal for United. You know, I like Castello Lacaba as well, but there doesn't seem to be any interest in him. Yeah, there's loads of players that United should be looking at. But if I'm saying right now what United need in their team, the main two for me in crucial positions is Baleba and Mbuemo. I don't believe United need another striker, because if United just change this formation and go to a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-3-3, you know, this nonsense I'm hearing that Joshua Zirkzee is not a striker is from people that don't really understand football. You know, Joshua Zirkzee is a striker. He just isn't the type of striker that a lot of fans are used to, you know. And as I said, if you've got wide forwards in Mbuemo and Cunha, you don't necessarily need a goal-scoring striker. You need a striker that can link the play and facilitate the attack to get the best out of the wide forwards, which is why Joshua Zirkzee is ideal. Again, you've got the likes of Cunha and Mbuemo that can play up front, but just restore Zirkzee to being a striker is all that needs to happen. But for me, yeah, Baleba and Mbuemo first and foremost are 2 signings that I believe United need to get over the line. You know, Mbuemo looks close, but there's nothing on Baleba. So, yeah, but they'll be the 2 that I'll be looking at first and foremost, you know. Sportology says, how many Ballon d'Ors will Yamal win in the rest of his career with number 10? Yeah, listen, I've answered this before. I think in terms of his level, Lamine Yamal's level, and what's out there right now, I expect Lamine Yamal to dominate the Ballon d'Or. So he's 17 now. I expect him to win at least 6 Ballon d'Ors. Whether he overtakes Messi's record, I don't know. But I think in this era of football now, where he's clearly the best player in terms of his level and how young he is as well, I expect him, if he stays clear of injury and carries on his trajectory as well, I expect him to win at least 6 Ballon d'Ors easily, you know, because he's that good for me. Guys, I'm going to get into the Eze in a minute. So, Gunners fan says Eze can give competition to Odegaard and Martinelli. Both plays cam and left wing. Yeah, big up Gunners fan, man. I'm going to get into Eze in a minute because that's part of what I want to talk about as well. Just going to go through a few more of the questions and then I'll get onto that. If you were Baldy on a slot, would you start Alisson or Mamardashvili, Georgie Mamardashvili? Yeah, I think Alisson's earned the right to still start for Liverpool, definitely. Mamardashvili, the Georgian, he's a very good keeper, to be fair, from Valencia, you know, and again, he's gonna be the keeper that takes over from Alisson, but Alisson's earned the right to still be number 1, definitely for me. He's still, you know, people think he's the best keeper in the world. I'd go along and say he's definitely up there with Thibaut Courtois for me. But yeah, Alisson definitely still does start for Liverpool. But Mamardashvili, and this is why Kelleher is gone, because Kelleher was understudy to Alisson for so many years. And obviously he's gone to Brentford. And Mamardashvili is eventually going to take over from Alisson once Alisson's on the decline or once Alisson indicates he wants to leave. And I believe Alisson probably goes back to Brazil as well. But Mamardashvili, yeah, will be the future number 1 for Liverpool. But I don't think he should be yet, you know. And if he's cool about biding his time until Alisson's finished, then again, Liverpool got a very good goalkeeper in waiting. So yeah. Sportology says, rank your top 4 contenders for Champions League. So top 4 in no order. I'm gonna say PSG, Man City, I think if Liverpool get a striker, they could be in it as well. But I think definitely PSG Man City. I'm gonna say PSG Man City. I think Pep is primed to do something mad this season. So PSG Man City for me. And then I'm gonna say Barcelona. If I mean Barca are looking at Nico Williams getting in through the door. Obviously they've signed that young keeper as well, Juan Garcia. And I do believe that they'll get another couple of signings, I believe, as well. But I'm gonna say Barcelona, PSG, Man City. And then the fourth one is gonna be between, I believe. I mean, you can never count out Real Madrid. I know they've got a new manager and that, but you know, European pedigree and that. But I think the fourth place might be between Real Madrid and Liverpool, I'm going to say. But yeah, PSG, Barca, Man City, Real Madrid or Liverpool. You know, I think they'll be the four favourites for me. Bayern Munich, not too sure. I think Bayern looking at a left winger, you know, and if they get a left winger in, I know they've signed that Nick Waltermada as well for Germany international, and to be fair, he's a good player, you know. So I know he's coming, but they're looking at a left winger. If they get a left winger, you know, to go with what they've got, someone that's, you know, one of the best left wingers, then they could be up there. But I think it's safe to say at the moment, PSG in no order, PSG, Barca, Man City, and then Madrid or Liverpool, I'm going to say. Who are your underdogs in the Premier League new season? Underdogs. It depends what you mean by underdogs, really, because Sport OG, let me know what you mean by underdogs. Do you mean a team that's going to get top four or challenge for the title? Let me know what you mean, because I think in terms of who do I think will do well this season? I think Newcastle will do well this season. So if we discount City, Liverpool, because for me they're automatics, they're shoo-ins definitely to do well. I mean I can't really say, man, because it depends what you mean by underdogs. I think if you're looking at the three teams that are getting promoted, it wouldn't surprise me if all three teams go straight back down, if I'm honest, because I don't think they're good enough, and I think the gap between the Premier League teams and the teams coming up is getting even bigger. So yeah, I think those teams go back down for sure. But yeah, it's hard to say who would be the underdogs, because it depends what you mean in terms of underdogs. But big up. So guys, yeah, just getting back onto the other part. So Eberechi Eze, obviously his release clause has been revealed. You know, has a 60 million release clause, which Palace would accept, or they would have to accept if it's a release clause. And I've heard something about 8 million in add-ons as well. So you're looking at about what, 68 million to get him out of Palace. And again, Palace are in Europe as well, so they won't be forced to sell, you know, unless they get a ridiculous offer. But I do believe, you know, if any club wants Eze, all they would need to do, really, in my opinion, is pay over what Palace want, but you can do it in installments. So if Palace want, you know, something like 25 million a season, you know, which equate over, let's say it's over 3 seasons, you know, then that could be something that's looked at. You know, I think if a club offers 60 million up front, then, you know, there could be talk there. But I think if it's an installment and you want to pay, like, let's say 25 mil or, you know, 20 mil over 3 seasons, I think that could be a good way to go for a lot of clubs. And, you know, Eze was my first option in this left 10 role before Cunha. You know, obviously I'm happy United got Cunha, but Eze was my first option. There's still a possibility that United could sign Eze, you know, especially if the Mbuemo deal doesn't get over the line. Even though, you know, left footer from the right is ideal, But I would like United to throw out their interest in Eze, because I think if you can get an Eze in there, then you've got the likes of Cunha who can play through the middle, Xerxes, and Mbuemo if need be. You've got another number 10 as well. I think that's the best way to go, because unless you're gonna go and get I wouldn't mind Ekatike, but the money, I don't really want Gyökeres, if I'm honest. Osman, I'm not fussed. Ekatike, I mentioned. Mateta, I think would be a good signing. But Xerxes is a striker, man. Just restore Xerxes to being a striker, and then if you get another number 10 in, and then you got lots of Cunha who can play through the middle. Again, man, it's good business, So yeah, and I think United, if they can do that and focus their energy on getting another midfielder in, a central midfielder, I think that's probably the way to go. But I think Mbuemo is a must signing to get him through the door. But in terms of Eze, again, it's looking likely that Arsenal and Tottenham at this moment in time are the front runners. As someone said earlier, I think Gunners fans said, Eze should be giving competition to Odegaard and Martinelli. I agree, but the problem is that with Eze is not going to come in to be on the bench for Martinelli and Odegaard. So the only way Eze goes to Arsenal is if Arteta gives him guarantees that he's a starter. Because if he comes in, there's no way he's going to accept being on the bench for either player. So this is why I don't believe he goes to Arsenal. I think at Tottenham it's a bit different, because on that left-hand side, you got Son's legs are going. And again, Son's been rumoured to be moving on, which, again, who knows if that's going to happen. But if you look at that left-hand side, he's primed to slot in there, because they haven't got really no one that can go on that side, and that's better than him. Obviously, in the number 10, you've got Maddison. You've got Kulusevski as well, can play there. Kulusevski can obviously play from the right. I do believe that, Eze can play in the 10 and the left and confidently start for both Tottenham and Arsenal. But whether they're giving them assurances, who knows? Who knows? But as I said, we'll have to wait and see what happens, because I've still got hope that United can still go in for Eze. As I said, he was one of the players that I wanted United to sign. But at this moment in time, it's looking like it's a no-go. But yeah, as I said, I think his release clause has been revealed, as I said, at 60 million plus 8 million in add-ons. And I think that's fair again. And the funny things as well is that you get a lot of these clubs now are looking at starting their bidding at 60 mil. You think of Cunha, release clause of 62.5. Brentford wants 60 mil for Mbuemo. You look at João Pedro now as well. They've had a 50 million bid. Newcastle rejected by Brighton. And I guarantee you now the next bid will have to reach 60 mil. Eze has got a release clause of 60 mil as well. Elanga has had a 45 million bid rejected. And if Elanga goes for 60 mil, that's a crime, But I think a lot of clubs now are looking at 60 mil as the starting point for a sell. And again, if you look at Cunha going for 62.5, I think that's kind of given an indication, as to where a lot of clubs might be starting their bidding at, So, yeah, we'll have to wait and see, man. But, yeah, I think next week I can see this transfer window heating up, definitely. I think you'll see definite movement on the Mbuemo front, in my opinion. And I think there might be some other surprising signings as well. So, but yeah, we'll have to wait and see what happens. But guys, big up yourself for coming on. Again, if it's your first time in there, make sure you subscribe to my channel and smash that like button. There's only 7 likes. Let's try and at least get to 10 likes and help the channel to grow. And I'll possibly be back probably tomorrow, I would say. So keep an eye on my schedule. Keep an eye on when I go live. And again, make sure you put that notification on as well to see when I do go live. Obviously, England under-21s are playing Germany today. So I might try and get a glance at that and see that game. I think that'd be a good game. Both teams, definitely Germany going through 3-0 winners against France under-21s. And obviously England beating Holland 2-1. And I think there's a couple of players to watch out for. I think Germany definitely You got Nick Walter-Marder, just signed for Bayern Munich. He'll be one to watch, and I think he's the top goal scorer at the moment in the European Under-21 Championships. I think you've got Nelson Wiper as well, or Weeper, striker that scored against France. You know, there's a few players to watch for Germany, as I said. I think for England, obviously, all eyes will be on Harvey Elliott, the 2 goals that he got. And again, they've got a few players that, you know, that England fans might be excited to watch. So I think it's going to be a very good game, you know. And if I'm honest, I think Germany, for me, from what I've seen so far, might be the slight favourites. But who knows? Who knows, man? So I'm going to try and get a glance on that. So yeah, I'll watch that game. But then, guys, I should be back tomorrow at some point. But as I said, if there's any news that breaks, I'll be back tomorrow. But tonight, yeah, I probably won't be live tonight. Obviously, second stream today. But big up yourselves. And as I said, each and every time, make sure you check out my content, my other content as well. I done one the other day, guys, which is a very good one. So I done my best front three in football history, front threes. So yeah, make sure you give that a look. Obviously, that's in chapters as well. So it'll probably be easy to navigate onto whatever front three that you want to see me talk about. So yeah, give that a check. And as I said, I'm going to be back on Monday anyway with Jonas. So we're going to get into latest transfer news. You know, we're going to get into Liverpool, Man United news as well. See his views. And again, I'll be back on the following Friday as well with Flawless. So yeah, make sure you guys are tuned in. As I said, smash that notification, that like button, sorry. Put your notifications on to see when I go live. And big up to the mods coming through each and every time. Big up to you guys if it's your new time in there. Big up to Sportology and Gunners Fan as well for your questions. And I'm going to catch you guys in a bit. Take it easy.